Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today we will continue our journey in the field of the European Union and in the Eurozone by talking about the Euro 2020 objectives. So as you can see it, now this agenda is a decade old. So in this year, we will we can finally evaluate that how successful was that, and yeah. So it was created by the Barroso Commission, and it was accepted in 2010, and actually it designed a strategy for the European Union. So actually it's not like a plan when you have to reach a defined milestone. Strategy is always about that. If they are talking about the budget of the structure of the budget of the European Union, the preferences, the programs when they are executing those budgets for the European Union, then actually they should focus on these objectives. After that, if you are able to reach it, then you will be happy. If you are not able to reach it, then still you have to do some other stuffs. You need other developments, improvements in the program. What is important here that these are milestones, cornerstones for design. Yeah. So if they were not able to achieve it, then maybe it's a significant variable. So they have to improve the institutions further. Maybe they should spend some more money. They need a different design for the project. So maybe it's a problem of the member states, or maybe it's an external problem, so there is a crisis situation. So actually, if you are opening this document, so it starts with this: I want Europe to emerge stronger from an economic and financial crisis. So that's why actually it will be really interesting to see, because it's part of the recovery of the continent after the most recent global financial crisis, and now we are sitting in the next one because of viruses. So, so actually we can see that how this recovery happened and what was the focus of this strategy. So first of all, the European Union had some strategies already. So I remember when around 2000 their focus was also on research and development, which is also partially here with us. Yeah. So it's just the second objective, that they want to have at least 3% of the EU's GDP should be focusing on the research and development and innovation. So they are chasing it for decades now. And what it means that actually, because as many institutions, the European Union is also has some sort of intelligence. So if it's able to not achieve something, then they are trying to reinforcing their operations, to reshape their operations. Then maybe now we can have an output like this. And on the other hand, we can say that what are the weak points, or what are the strategic points where the continent thinks that they can improve themselves, or they should improve themselves. So these 5 targets can be evaluated on this territory, that which is the most important macroeconomic variable, or list of macroeconomic variables where the continent should be improved, where should be developed. And sometimes it can be stunning. So the first objective, employment. It's highly obvious. Why do we need employment? Obviously, employed people pay taxes. So if you have high employment, then you will have stable public finance. So you will meet all the issues which were raised here when we were talking about fiscal policy. Yep. So this 3% of GDP and 60% of GDP ratio, so annual public deficit and public debt accumulated. Because in this case, if you meet this, then actually you have high employment, you have growth, you have deep consumption, so not just wage-related taxes will be high, but also consumption-related taxes will be high as well. And and because your GDP is growing, then it means that actually you are growing out, you can grow out your debt as well. So it's important for many different reasons to have this. And on the other hand, it's really good for your people as well, for the citizens. They are happy to be employed because they are not starving to death. It's a good thing. Also, we can look on the time preferences. Obviously, before 20 years, young people supposed to sit in schools and learn stuff to be educated. So yeah, and after above 64 years, then usually they are retired, or maybe they can have some half jobs, so they are not working in full-time jobs, but still they can be employed. But actually they are not point of interest because yeah, after that it depends on the member states and when is the retirement age, but usually it is 64 years are the consensus. And then let's see that what can we find here. So actually we can see that there is a difference among the member states, but actually if we have to evaluate this, then we have more recent data at Eurostat in the statistical database. So if there is even for a Euro 2020 indicator list, so after that it's much better to check them. There is a map view, but I don't know why this map is really small. Okay, so we can see that in core countries and Switzerland, we have really high employment ratios. From which year? Yeah, so it's not for this year. Obviously, COVID can have its tolls here as well, but we can see that 1 year before COVID, in Germany it was really high, in Netherlands it was also really high, in Czechia it was also remarkably high, in the Nordic countries it was even bigger, in the Baltics it was really high, even in Brexit land, in Ireland as well, also in Portugal. Actually, if you are looking on the European Stability Mechanism supported countries, we can see that Ireland or Portugal is healthy. Where can we find problems? Obviously, these problems are laying in the yellow territory. So even Hungary can meet this. I have my doubts, but okay. Austria, Slovenia, Bulgaria. Now, surprise. And on the other hand, if you are looking on not the core territories, we can see that, okay, France has some issues, but at least it's 70 something. Also in Poland, Slovakia, so they are really close to this level. And then there is the trouble. So in Spain, still they were not able to recover from the deep recession of the 2010s. And the problem is that now we can say that in 2019 the continent was at the peak point. It was already defined as slow growth, so if we are looking on the business cycle clock, of the European Commission, then even before COVID, we could say that they defined as a slowdown period. So all the quarters of 2019 was mostly the peak. So they started to recover after 2013, and it was growing slowly, and reaching the peak the first quarter of 2018, and since then there was a plummeting period, and we don't know what would happen because now it was hijacked by the COVID. So, so in this case, it's hard. It's not that hard to say that these countries like Spain or Italy, I'm afraid completely of Italy because their public debt is enormous. So the 1/4 of the entire public debt of the Eurozone is Italian. So we cannot compare the Spanish or the Portuguese or the Irish or the Cypriotic case when they had to be bailed out, or even the Greek one with the Italian, because different scales. So this is their peak performance. And also we can say that okay, the European Union has a really small budget, so you know that 1% of the entire GDP is the budget size, but you know that in the European Union there is co-financing. So if you are running a national program related to European Union programs, then you have to put national money also from the national budget to co-finance the European program as well. Actually, it's really useful because in this case member states are more motivated to use this money well, and also it can improve the power of the European projects from capital point of view. So technically we can say that the Spanish and Italian governments did everything. They were using all the resources that they were able to get to meet this objective, and that was their peak performance. I can say that this is the problem of the government, so it can be a much more structural problem. Yeah, you know, structural is when so many things is messed up in the entire economy, maybe in the society, in the institutions, in the companies, in the legislation, that it's really hard to pick one or two variables to say that, okay, if you are changing this, then everything will be operational again. We can't find this, unfortunately. So these countries are already weak, or were already weak, even before COVID, so now it will be really hard to say that maybe we will have a second round for sovereign crisis. Just please, Italy, survive somehow. Yeah. Okay, so let's see the second. Second is R&D. So I mentioned already that the case of innovation, so it's a never-ending story for the EU, because when I was even in high school in the late 90s, it was said also that European Union should have at least 3% of their GDP spent on R&D. Now it's also research and development and innovation. Why? Because innovation is when you have a product and service as the result of your research and development activities. So it can be really nice that I developed something, so as a researcher I'm writing a paper on something. So how volatility affects, or how different macroeconomic policies are affecting the volatility of exchange rate. I'm publishing it in a paper, in a journal, people will read that, I get some citations, and for me that's all. It's a research and development activity, but there is no product at the end. On one hand, it's necessary because we need basic research. On the other hand, there should be also applied research at the end, so maybe some people will take this paper and other papers as well, which are basic researches, and then they are combining together because they have some idea, and they will run an applied research, and at the end of the day they can have some prototype product or service. Maybe they are using it to refine some financial derivatives, so how can you price CDS better, or something like this better. And then if this prototype will be refined and they can sell it on the market to someone, then that will be innovation. So you need many steps, and you have to put a lot of money into it. You need financial background. Otherwise it's not working. And obviously, if you want future economic growth, it requires competitive products and services. So you need innovation. So that's why we can say that, oh, this R&D focuses in the head of the European Union since 3 decades now because they want researchers. No, absolutely not. They want competitive products and services to be sold on the market. They want to have export, and obviously, as a result, at the end of the day, they want employment. So without competitive products and services, you cannot have employment because you can't sell your stuff anyone. So that's the reason, and that's why actually the EU started to focus on not just providing funds for basic research, because okay, you have to finance basic research. This part, the European Union and European countries are really good in basic research. So universities are funded. Okay, not in Hungary, but elsewhere they are funded well. Even in Hungary there are projects for them coming from the European Union. And also, so they are good in this thing. The problem is that usually all the results of the basic research in the past it was applied by US companies because they were more flexible, because they had all the infrastructure, because they had venture capital funds which were focusing on startups. It was way easier to make startups. So actually during the last 3 decades mostly the European Union tried to improve its capabilities to support startup companies, not just through funding, but also through supporting the underlying infrastructure, the underlying market, legislation, and so on. So So that's why it's much more complex than just focusing on the 3%. So if you are looking on the data right now, we can see that obviously so in these member states where corporate headquarters are located. So usually research and development is not outsourced. So they are really keeping it really close to the corporate headquarters because of obvious reasons. And where corporate headquarters are related, research and development activity will be also really important. So we can see that core countries like Germany, Finland is lower. In the past it was way higher. Okay. So Nordic countries, even Belgium, so they are really close. Netherlands, 2%, and then we can see France, UK. So it's even hard. Wow, Czechia. Yeah, they are perfect in everything, so we can see that it's nearly 2%. So reaching 2%, it's already can be a nice thing. The problem is that the rest of the member states are way under the 2%. We can see Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, not even 1%. Poland is 1.2%. Czechia, yeah, they're Czechs. Slovakia is less than 1%. In Hungary, it's 1.5%. Croatia is less than 1%. Spain, Portugal, so also Ireland is really small. And partially we have to talk about it that in some countries, so most of the new member states, part of this research and development is made by the academic sphere. Nowadays they have corporate relations. Just the problem is that if you remember on the last week that I was talking about that majority of the regional export is made by multinational companies. So for institutions or for universities or for defined branches of the academy, it's harder to find the market for their R&D activity because there are not so the demand is limited for their services. Why? Because if a German company wants to have some R&D, they will go to the nearby university. They have much better equipment, they have more people, they have way better funding, and they can work on it. Obviously, the region tries to do something like this, so many universities are focusing on regional multinational companies, and they try to have, and not just try to have, that many of them has even divisions which are focusing only on the needs of this corporate partner. Just still, the region have to develop these skills. And okay, if you are comparing the situation to at least, let's say, 2000, then there is a significant development. Just still we can say that that is the reason why these countries have such a low spending. So if you are looking on, let's say 2000, we will see that the numbers are not that different. Just now they are say 7. They are a bit bigger. Just it can be the question that, okay, and how much? So if the current period so the current budgetary period of the European Union ends in this year, then what will happen? So maybe in some member states this GDP ratio can fall down until the new budget is arriving, because there is a gap, unfortunately, between these two periods. Then, climate change and energy. So they defined 3 objectives. First of all, greenhouse gas emission. So since the entire continent is only has a welcoming climate because of the ocean current, which brings here warm water, seawater. Yeah, so the Gulf current. So that's why actually people can live in the Nordic territories, because otherwise it would be way more colder. And yeah, so that's why. And also we have many ocean or maritime territories. So an increasing sea level or droughts or changes in the climate would have a catastrophic impact. So it's highly obvious that focusing on greenhouse gas emission can be important, and also it can be R&D related. Because if you start to focus on a new and developing industry, like focusing on manufacturing solar plants or windmills or fusion plants, then obviously you will be the market leader and even the market maker of the new industry. So that's why it can be reasonable to spend on such things, because actually you can generate not just GDP growth and employment, but also it will be highly R&D related. Yeah. So if you are looking on greenhouse gas emission, then we can see that the percentage of the generation compared to the year of 1990, and we can see that, oh, the member states are meeting this so well. So Poland is, well, it's actually not that lower, because it's supposed to be 80. But in Hungary, oh, we are completely meeting this, or in Slovakia, in Czechia. In Poland, they are not able to do that. In Estonia, it's way more. But come on, guys, the reason is because the base is the last, or the year when we had our communist dense industry, and most of it was sold for scrap metal because they were completely useless. So on this basis, yeah, it's very easy to meet, but it's not the result of any kind of investments on this field. I think that partially Germany is enjoying this impact as well, because Eastern Germany's industry was also collapsing, so we can have a benefit here, because the rest of the countries are still struggling with that. Greece, come on. There was no economic growth in Greece during the last decade, and not even they are able to meet this. What happened in Iceland? A Game of Thrones happened. Okay. Yeah. It's also strange in the UK. They reduce the amount of coal in energy generation, so maybe it can be the reason. And obviously, second bullet point is energy from renewables. My biggest concern here is that if you are looking on the energy mix of these countries, then we can say that oil, which is this friendly blue, has really high significance. If you are looking on natural gas, which is orange, there's also high significance. Then we have coal, which is the most polluting way of generating electricity. And in Poland, yeah, it's really high. They are sitting on enormous coal reserves, and I don't think that they want to change any of this. In Germany, it was also disastrous because they are mining it. They are doing it in near surface mining, so actually they are removing entire small towns and territories just to have coal. So yeah. And nuclear energy, which can generate clear electricity, just it has a bad press because of Soviet Union. I can't say Japan Fukushima because come on guys, there was an enormous earthquake and enormous tsunami. You can't find enormous earthquakes and tsunamis in Germany. It's not a geologically active region, and actually the seashore is highly limited. So if you are sitting in the middle of the continent, until you are not start to play with self-destruction with your nuclear power plant like it happened in Chernobyl, then they are really friendly equipments. So we can say that, yeah, in France they have this kind of energy mix, and actually the rest is the renewables. So we can say that this green thing is, it's really nice that okay, they spent enormous amount of money on this. Yeah, just on the other hand, in Germany the amount of coal in production was increasing because they started to close down nuclear power plants. Great. So actually they started to generate more carbon dioxide than before. And okay, they were able to increase maybe the renewables a bit. Okay, it was a significant increase from zero. But if we are looking on the entire energy mix, we can say that it's highly nothing compared to fossil fuels. So if we are looking on share of renewable energy in gross energy consumption, then we can say that okay, if you have huge mountains and water on them, so you can build water supplied power plants, then okay, or if you have wind, like in Denmark. And also in the UK they have offshore wind power plants, but maybe it's not enough. Also in Ireland they have a lot of wind, mostly they have wind and rain, but still there is space. Or in Netherlands you can see that, and now it's okay, in Germany they have high percentages, but in Austria also they have mountains. So if you are building some dams and generating electricity with that, then it can be efficient. Also the same thing is valid for Croatia. The problem is that if there is drought, then it can have a negative impact on your renewables if you are using water power plants. Wow, Latvia. I have no idea what they were doing here. Portugal. It's remarkable. Okay, next point. Increasing energy efficiency. Now it's another thing. So, how much GDP can you generate from spending the same amount of electricity? Uh, no. Okay, that was strange. It was not able to manage. Ah, okay, somewhere there was a data set about efficiency, but it's not there with us, so okay, let's keep this. And let's move to the next part. Yeah, so fourth point was education. So reducing school dropout rates under 10%. And at least 40% of the nearly middle-aged people should have at least third level education. I think that one of the most stunning points is that reducing school dropout rates under 10%. Come on, we are talking about the European Union. We are talking about 2010. And still there are people who are not able to finish school here. I think it's disastrous. That at least we have to talk about it, and this is a problem. So if you are looking on the data, that percentage of population, young adults, uh, with the most lower secondary education. So they are not able, okay, they are able to finish primary school, but they are not able to finish high school or other equivalent schools to be a workforce, useful workforce somewhere. And it's also really strange that actually in Poland or in Czechia they are able to keep it really low. In Hungary, I'm not surprised about this because still, if even if we have education, then it's a lucky thing. If we are looking back in time, we can see disastrous issues. So in 2000, it was behind Italy, it's disastrous. Spain, Portugal. Oh my God, Portugal! What happened there? Nearly half of the people. Iceland, okay. UK, okay, they left the European Union, so that can be a reason that they are uneducated. So maybe we can say that. Oh my God. It's still terrible. I don't know what is happening here. 1/3 of your population is, I can say useless, but from economic point of view, these people, for them it will be really hard to get well-paying jobs when they can have high added value, because yeah, they are missing education completely. So it's also this factor reduces possibility of high employment and and research and development and even GDP growth. So it limits your growth if you are not spending on this. Obviously, there can be limits on the lower end as well. So some percentage of the population, if IQ and all this stuff is distributed as a normal distribution, so it has this behavior, then maybe you have to say that okay, some part of the population is not able to do that because of reasons, but uh, so we can't define maybe or reduce this to 0%. For me, that would be the most perfect outcome. But still, there is a margin of error that okay, they are not able to finish this. But come on, 30%. What is happening there? Also, 40%. Well, 40, sorry. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I think this is the disaster, and the biggest problem is that it depends completely on the member states. So maybe European Union can provide some funding to rebuild the schools, to refurbish them, or maybe they can provide some money to develop some new uh, handbooks for the lecturers or for the teachers. Uh, so they can support it, but no, it's completely the territory of the member states. So if governments were completely useless for decades to organize their own education and organize the support of manpower for their economy, then such disasters will happen. Yeah. No, Norway, come on, what are you doing there? Okay, so that's highly disappointing. Because what we should talk about in 2020 is that we need educated people coming from the university who are skilled and flexible. So, yeah, mostly the added value of the university is that it can provide some up-to-date knowledge, but mostly makes people flexible. So they can learn many stuff in a small amount of time and they can adapt to things. They are creative and they are adapting and they can work with other people. So they are not stupid. And and we can see that it's also really funny that okay, so maybe Spanish or Portuguese societies are completely split into half. So half of the population has excellent performance in education, and half of them are completely outlier. It can be also nice ingredient for social disaster or for economic disasters when we are doing this. Greece. Yeah, it's similar to the rest of the Mediterranean. It's interesting that in Italy it's not nothing like this. So the rest of the European Union focuses on this. Hungary, yeah. If you are comparing this situation with earlier data, so let's say 2000, if we have data, oh my god, 10%. Yeah, we were also... what happened when when I started my journey in Hungarian higher education in 2002? Yeah. Wow. So in Spain we can say that in 2002 actually Spain had really good, excellent statistics, Belgium, Denmark and Finland. They were really good in this. Then let's see the deepest part of the recession. It actually pushed Spanish people further ahead. So maybe half of society was thinking that it's a great idea to focus in learning. What is happening in Germany? 31%. It's increasing. But it's really strange to see that. Yeah, mostly the continent is growing to one direction, except one country here. Okay, it's also growing, just, yeah. If you are not spending on something, then it's hard to expect any kind of growth. And I mentioned that this is one of the most disastrous or appalling or frightening problems that still we have to at least talk about this. But next thing is poverty. To reduce the number of people with 20 million who are at risk of poverty in the EU. So if you are looking on the data, still we can see that, okay, some numbers some of them are positive, some of them are negative. I can believe these numbers, I can believe all the rest of them, not this. This did something. Cumulative difference compared to 2018 thousands. In Hungary, how many people went abroad? So maybe, but I don't believe that. So positive number means that actually there is more people in the risk of poverty. Negative number is that the number was decreasing. Okay. People living in households with really low work intensity. Adults work 20% or less. The total work potential during the past year. Oh my god. Yeah, the problem is that they are absolute numbers, so it should be much better to compare to the entire population or something like this, because yeah, we can say that, oh, Germany, it's that's terrible, but come on, in Germany we can find 80 million people, so we are talking about 1,000. So still we can find 4 and 500,000 people who are operating or living it under low work intensity, but it's 6% rounded up. So 5.6%, it's not that significant. So actually it's at the boundary of significance. Okay, in Poland it can be much more important because in Poland there is 30 million people. Oh, sorry, it's nearly 40. Hey, 3%. Okay, let's skip this. So I think that this statistics is completely related again to education, and also it's related to employment. So what can you do with them? Teaching, maybe? Teaching? Not just giving them some money that, okay, you can have this aid, but teaching. It was useful during the last several thousand years. Risk of poverty after social transfers. If you don't have so much social transfers, you can still be poor. Oh my. Okay, it's not a new thing for me that in the new member states we have terrible numbers, or in Greece, but yeah, but the problem of risk of poverty, it's it's highly relativistic. So maybe if my wage would be compared to German wage levels, yeah, I will be not even in the statistics. So the person with an equalized disposable income below the risk of poverty threshold, which is set 60% of national median equivalent disposable income. Yeah. So if you are not able to earn a bit more than half of the national median disposable income, then you are at risk. Oh, guys, this statistics is so biased. Equalized disposable income, let's see, in Germany. Don't give me data. Germany, yeah. Yes. It's annual. I think it's annual. Yep. But it gross or net? Uh, and I should be also above this. Uh, mm, well, it's sad for me. So actually the statistics is so some of this data is first world problem. So if you are looking on them, that's median incomes are so high that similarly materially deprived people. Oh. Okay, maybe if we are reloading the page. Yeah. What defines this? So they have living conditions constrained by the lack of resources. They are not able to pay rent or utility bills. It's reasonable. Keep their home adequately warm. Oh, come on, guys, in the Mediterranean you are not able to find even heating equipment in the hotels. I'm always freezing to death when I'm going to Spain or Italy in winter. Otherwise, it's really good because it's still hotter sometimes than in Hungary. Just face unexpected expenses. Eat meat, fish or protein equivalent for every second day. A week holiday away from home. Oh, come on, guys, a car. Don't be ridiculous. A washing machine. It's reasonable. Color TV. Okay. And phone. Okay, some parts of it's funny, but okay. I'm just laughing because I don't have a car and it would be highly useless for me because, come on, I'm walking 10 minutes to the faculty and this is mostly what I'm doing. So if I want to go somewhere, I'm using train or buses once or twice a month. It's completely enough. So that would be a waste of resources to do that. But let's say that, okay, maybe some people can fit to this category. Most recent data. Yeah. And again, how can we have this education? I don't think that other fiscal stimulus. Okay, if you are not bleeding out your companies during COVID, and we are trying to support them with additional stimulus packages, or at least you are not collecting taxes from them, then it can be also useful to avoid things escalating further. But there will be a designated lecture about the results of COVID. Okay, so that was all about U2020. So see you next week. Bye bye.